Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. I want to welcome you to a quick little, I like to kind of do these inspirational pieces, which will give you something to focus on for your business. And today, what we're going to focus on is mental wealth and entrepreneurship. And one of the things that are important is kind of defining terms so that this way we understand that we're talking about the same thing. So, a lot of stuff happened since 2020, right? Over these last 2 years. And mental health itself has become a priority for a lot of people. Whereas we were all over the place doing all the things. And then we realized, oh, we can't go do all the things anymore because what? We were quarantined, right? And I think that this was the first time, probably in history, that there's been a global crisis like this. And when you look at that, it affected all different areas of our lives, but it definitely affected how we as entrepreneurs are navigating. It also affected how many people have become entrepreneurs since that time frame because there were things that they realized that maybe they didn't achieve before, or maybe there was a layoff, or maybe there just was a change of heart and people were disheartened with what they were doing and they wanted to try something different. I think that when you talk about mental wealth and entrepreneurship, you have to look at, the way that we kind of define it, which is to be wealthy in taking into consideration the things that make you happy. And so what we like to do over here at Give It to the People is to talk about quality of life. Now, I'm Chisa Penix Brown, and I am the curator of all of the wonderful events that happen when we do Give It to the People, which is a organization focused on mental wealth. And what we do is we curate dope events for people that are in business, right? Now, our focus was built around just things that happen individually, but then also in some of the goals that we had in order for us to have a better quality of life. So my husband and I started this company last year in order to think about the things that really made us happy, but that also made us money, right? And so when you talk about mental wealth, we also want to include the fact that if you're going to talk about entrepreneurship, the whole purpose of that is for you to also gain some type of income from it. So I want people to really just understand something that I think is really important when we talk about mental wealth and entrepreneurship, which is imbalance. Everybody is always talking about how, oh, you got to balance work life and stuff. And it's just like, that's not realistic. It's just really not. So when we talk about being mentally wealthy, I need you to understand that part of that with entrepreneurship specifically, there is got to be an imbalance. And the reason there's got to be an imbalance is because I want you to think about it like this. If you have a regular job, or if you've ever had a regular job, and it's time for you to go to work, you're supposed to be doing work things while you're at work. You're not supposed to necessarily be worrying about your family or picking up the kids or cooking or cleaning, right? No, you're at work. You're supposed to do work activities. Think about it like this. When you were in school, you were doing school activities. You weren't worried about what your parents were doing and taking care of anybody else. And not to say that it wasn't a part of your mindset and that you weren't thinking about it, but it's just you had to specifically stay in that particular mode to be at work or to be at school. The problem is once you become an entrepreneur, you get this so-called freedom. And this freedom is really excellent. It's really amazing because now you can do what you want to do when you want to do it. But you will quickly realize that that freedom comes with a price. And that means that you may spend more time having to do that business than you do spending with your family or with your friends. It just depends on what you're doing. But when you start, you really want to put your energy into making it successful. And in order to keep it going, then you need to put practices and systems and people in place so that this way you can still run the business without you having to be there every day. And so nobody's saying don't do your work, don't do the business. No, we're saying that you need to understand that there is an imbalance, and that imbalance is okay because you have some type of goal at the end that you're trying to reach. So I want you to think about this with your imbalance. You have to prioritize what's going to be important each day. It's not saying that this week you can only focus on one thing. No, each day brings a different challenge to it. You may have had a plan last night, and when you woke up this morning, guess what happened? That plan did not go the way that you had originally intended it to go. And it could be a lot of different factors that cause that plan to not go the way that you intended it to go. But it doesn't mean that you still don't need to get things done, but it does mean that you have the freedom as an entrepreneur to really decide on how important this thing is today. So I want you to first off think that this imbalance is really an important key of you being able to be flexible, right? And so when you get up each day and you have a plan, that's really great, but just understanding that that plan can change and that now you need to prioritize today what is important. And then tomorrow, something else is more important. Now, if you have the ability to get everything on your checklist done, kudos to you. You better get it done, right? But guess what? That's not always going to happen. So if you're going to be imbalanced, which again is okay, prioritize, but then you need to still take the time once you prioritize to focus on getting those tasks done. Because if you knew that something needed to be done by a certain time frame, then just focus your energy on that. But also take into consideration that what may need to get done may be a break today. And maybe you do need to focus on working out. Maybe you need to focus on just taking a walk. Maybe you need to focus on taking a nap. That focus that you put in there can also be something that rejuvenates you. And when you start to think about your time in a manner of, I can still get it done, I am still going to get it done, or I am in the process of doing it and it will get done, then it does make it easier for you to go through each day because now you have something that you're going to focus on for that day to get it done. And I think that it's a really great thing to plan long term. I think it's great. But anybody that was planning long term, let's say 5 years ago, could not have foreseen that we would have had a global pandemic. There were people that were working 5 years ago that could not have seen that things would have changed this drastically. There are companies that are no longer in existence. And if we're going to be entrepreneurs that are practicing mental wealth, then we need to understand that that grace that we need to give ourselves is there and it needs to be abundant so we can function properly. Now, one of the things that I like to think about too is the fact that oftentimes people do not know what you're going through. They do not understand the stresses of an entrepreneur. And sometimes they may understand it, but they may not sympathize with it. And they just might not care, right? Because they need what they need when they need it. And so you have clients that they don't know what's going on with you and they still want you to produce. And it's your job to produce because you said you were going to, right? But when you start to think about things, and this is just in a timely fashion, when we talk about Chesley Chris, which was the Miss America, and her just committing suicide, you would think that this is a person that had it all together. Beauty, brain. She was a lawyer. She was working on, television networks and doing all kinds of amazing things and achieving so much in such a short amount of time, right? I'm sure that there were plenty of people that were envious of her and her position and what she was doing. And yet still there's something that is missing, So the problem is that you probably want all of it all at one time, and then maybe when you get it, it might not be what you thought it was going to be. But I would encourage you to please reach out to somebody and talk to somebody when it comes to some of the things that are necessary. So whether you have a business BFF, whether you have a mentor, or whether you just have somebody that you just talk to, that to me is an important factor. So my husband and I, business partners, were talking. And, one of the things that we came up with is the concept that you might not be able to fix everything, right? You just might not be able to fix everything right now. And so what if you have your business BFF come to you and they're having a problem? You might not be able to fix it, but what we think is important. And so this is where I want to leave you with this today, is the questions that you answered and the questions that you ask yourself, or if somebody else is asking you questions, because it could be a lot of different factors that are leading you to be not happy with your business. And so one of the things that I started studying even beforehand, and it was just like, I always think things are so crazy how they align, was business and depression. And a lot of people that are in business tend to be depressed because, business can be super up and down. It's not it's not, what's the word I want to use? It's not typical that every day you're having a super win. It's just not, right? And so there are a lot of people that will show you all the wins and that won't tell you the losses. And do we want to hear the losses? Sometimes, because it helps to build the story, but we want to see all of the wins now. And that's the difference. Now everybody sees everything, right? And they only see what you put out there. So you don't have to show the negative side if you don't want to, but just because you don't show it doesn't mean that it's not there. And that's how I think we have to kind of look at the fact is that a lot of times people are showing you all of the glitz and the glamour, but you don't see the behind the scenes of everything that they go through. So I just want to encourage us that we need to have imbalance, right? It's not that you can focus on everything every day, all the time. You just really can't. So think about the things that you need to prioritize. Focus on those things each day, and then find time for yourself inside of here, which will allow you to have fulfillment in your daily action. Did you hear me? Find time, okay, so that you can have fulfillment in your daily action. And that doesn't mean you did a million things today. What did you do today that you can find fulfillment in? And if that is completing your task list, if that is, let me show you something that I like to do. So I'm just gonna give you my thing. I like to write lists, okay? So I get my sticky notes out and I use my sticky notes. I'm a very rigorous sticky noter, okay? I love to write lists and I like to have my notepad out. So if I know I have a to-do list for this week, I may write a to-do list out, and then I love to cross stuff off the list. But let me tell you what I found is even more fulfilling is when you write down a thing on a sticky note and you ball it up. Oh my God. Balling that sticky note up and throwing her in the trash is one of the most like, I really did it. Because I think that a to-do list is there to show you, okay, this is what you said you were going to do and cross it off. But when you can still see it sometimes, it's kind of like, oh, well, did I add in something else? Is there something else that needs to go with that, right? And sometimes it gets added back on the list. But when you have a sticky note, and let's just say you had a wall full and it was 5 sticky notes on there, and today you can knock 2 of those things off, and now you visually only see 3 things left, then that means, okay, we only have 3 things left to do, right? Now, there can still be plenty of other things that need to go on the sticky. But if you are focusing on what you need to do and prioritizing what you can do each day, then it makes life much easier when it comes to you having a visual cue to see your accomplishment. So I would challenge you to be imbalanced. Be imbalanced and decide each day when you get up what you're going to focus on for that day. Prioritize it, okay? And see what makes the most amount of sense and what you can do. Because you can work 24 hours a day and you will kill yourself quicker. Okay. So your health habits, your eating habits, your sleep habits, I mean, it's all affected by our mental health. And one of the things recently, the Janet Jackson documentary was on. And when I'm telling you, I identified with Janet when she said, that when she gets in certain places, that eating is one of her comfort zones and her comfort places. And I was just like, you know what? I love to cook. I love to eat. And so those things are comforting to me also. But at the same time, you have to kind of evaluate, well, what are you eating? Can you change your habits a little bit? So like even right now, I am on a detox that I just started yesterday. And this detox is detoxing. But it was a recognition of, okay, the imbalance might be really far off in one area, and I want to bring it to a different level so that this way I can function the way that I need to function in an optimal state. So I want you to just really think about, there could be multiple things that you're focusing on simultaneously. And, this way they can collide in the world. So, this morning I got some juice. I got what am I doing? What do you call that thing? Yogurt with granola and strawberries and blueberries. Ooh, it's great. Yummy. Love it. Right. And at the same time, still working and still getting things done, So when you look at, just this business and you look at mental wealth, it is about your entire quality of life. And if you find yourself working so much that you don't enjoy things, come on. Now, this is not to say that you can't delay things till later. So maybe you work real hard, and then you go ahead and you take yourself a vacation. And I think that it is reasonable for you to Decide on that for yourself and not allow society or what somebody else is doing to make that decision for you. Because each day, as a business owner, and specifically as a full-time business owner, you have choices to make about what you do for your day, and how you're going to spend your day. Now, some of us may have more freedom in that area than others, but when you are, let's just say, you have three places to go, three places, and if you accomplish those three places, your day is good, you're done. If that's the case, how do you map that out? Do you go to the furthest place and then bring it back? Or do you go to the closest place first and then go there? Or do you go to the place that, depending upon what time it is open first and you zigzag back and forth? Do you go to one place because it's closer to something else and maybe you're going to have lunch in between time with somebody? It's just different decisions to make, right? I mean, so when you start to think about it, there's not necessarily one way to just do something, but there is your way to do something. And if you look at prioritizing, if you look at being imbalanced and saying, today, this is what I'm gonna do. Tomorrow, it might be a whole different ball game. But even if today is just taking time off for you, an hour, 2 hours, or the whole day, it's okay, because you're gonna go back and you're gonna get it together the next day, you know? So just take that as a note for yourself, that imbalance can be a really great thing. And this is something that we really need to take into consideration when we are looking at how we want our mental wealth to work with our entrepreneurship. So I hope you've enjoyed this today. Now, my name is Chisa Penix Brown, again, from Give It to the People. So you can go to giveittothepeople.com to find out about our upcoming events and any webinars and all of the goodness that we have out in the world. And then we'll check you here another day, another time, and just make sure that you continue to show up and show out and to give it to the people. All right. Now, I want you to just kind of really understand that there is, help out there, and to ask somebody, for help. And help looks different to different people. So please reach out and find someone to talk to. Even if they can't fix it, you can have a conversation, and that can cause you to feel better. And that's what we really want, because we want you to be as healthy and wealthy as possible. So again, make sure you always show up and show out and continue to give it to the people.